I'm very aware that AI threatens my job as an SEO specialist, certainly in its current capacity, which is why I've spent the last couple of years working every day to become as fluent as possible using AI rather than be overtaken by it. And I want to show you how you can speedrun that process today to go from complete novice to top 10% AI user in just 30 days. You'll also find a link below to the AI Fluency Handbook, which goes through all of this step by step and more, breaking it down for you to follow along with and implement this for yourself. We'll start by matching the right AI to your specific work and then build up through to automated workflows to run your business processes. Now, most people pick ChatGPT because it's famous and then maybe wonder why they're not getting the results they wanted. Well, every AI has its different strengths and weaknesses. ChatGPT in particular, it's great for quick content generation, emails, social media posts, brainstorming, customer service response emails, simple task automations. It's sort of a Swiss Army knife that does a little bit of everything pretty well. I mean, you can see here I've used some image generation to come up with some thumbnail ideas. It's pretty easy to use. It has a bunch of features in the main chat here. You've got all sorts of things which we'll go into a bit more later. We've got agent mode, deep research, image, study and learning, as well as connecting. And it's pretty fast, but it can fall down and have some weaknesses when you start to push it to more complex analysis, can be prone to some hallucinations as well. And a lot of people now we have Chat GPT 5 aren't so happy with how well it runs. But for some tasks, you might want to move on to something called Claude. Claude is a bit more of a deep thinker. It's very similar to ChatGPT, but really excels with particularly copywriting, if you're writing marketing copy, and coding as well as analysis. So you can see here, this is an example bit of analysis I used it for, and I wanted to get it to analyze 4,000 keywords from my SEO tool. And you see in a few minutes, it went through, passed through all the data, wrote the right code, and actually brought out my SEO plan from what I was asking it to do in these keywords. There's, again, you can see in the main homepage of Claude, it's got all the same features as you might see in ChatGPT with deep research, different settings and styles and connections. The only downside is it doesn't have image generation, but it is a really great coding platform. It's one of the best for actually building apps and stuff. You can do it in this, or you can use its Claude Code terminal. So if you want to create dashboards and little mini artifacts for your clients or for your workflows, then Claude is a great place to start doing that. You can literally code something in seconds, hit this publish button at the top, and start using it in your day-to-day workflow. So it's not necessarily as flexible as ChatGPT, but really has those specific use cases of copywriting, coding, and analysis, which it excels at. Now, there's also a platform called Perplexity. Perplexity is an AI search engine. It's a great research assistant here. You can see that I wanted to do, in this particular task, do some pricing consultant sort of research to find optimal pricing strategy for my business. And you see it goes through, it cites all of its sources as well. So it's less prone to making data up than the other platforms like ChatGPT and Claude. So if you're research heavy, this is a great platform, breaks everything down really easily, even builds little charts for you in here. And you do have all the similar functions that you might see on other tools, such as a research mode and an agent mode where you can actually start turning things into dashboards and slides and apps to be a little bit more creative. Plus, you can actually, on the pro model, you can actually access Claude's LLM language and Gemini as well, which we'll get onto a second, Grok and ChatGPT 5 as well. So it's a really flexible platform that's really nice to use if you're particularly research heavy, like AI search engine. And then the other main one that people use is Gemini. Gemini is Google's LLM. So if you're a heavy Google user, and if you've got Google Workspace, you automatically get the Pro account here, so you don't have to pay for another one. It has a couple of modes, Pro and Flash, so you can get quick, fast answers, and it kind of, a bit like ChatGPT, it kind of does everything pretty well. It does some good marketing copy. It can research and do deep research. It can do sort of reasoning and coding as well. So this is another good all-rounder for you to start trying out for your business, particularly if you like using Google's tools already, then it's a great place to start working. You can see in the bottom here, deep research. It's got video. You can create video with its video function. They've just upgraded their image generation function, so you can do some cool image editing in Gemini as well. For example, I was playing around it with the other day and doing just silly stuff like putting a crown on my head, but it's really good for if you wanted to edit or blend two images together to put, yourself on a different background and things like that, then that's going to work really well. The next thing you need to understand is how to prompt. And this is still a bit of a weak spot for 90% of AI users. Now, fortunately, there are two ways that you can easily become a masterful prompter. You can use a framework called Crisp, which is going to help you solve more complex problems and get more reliable outputs from your chosen platform. And we'll break down what it all means right now. So the C in Crisp stands for context. This is critical because it provides the background information about your problem or task that the AI is going to address. R in Crisp is for role, and this tells the AI what position or role it's going to take on, whether that's assistant, a marketing assistant, a copywriter, a lawyer, a research expert, anything. You almost think of it as the job role that you want the AI to perform. The I stands for input. And this is where you specify the data or the information that is required for the AI to actually give the output you require. The S stands for structure. So, how you want it to feed back the information, whether you want it in a long paragraph, bullet points, short list, or a step-by-step guide. And finally, the P in Crisp stands for purpose. And this is where you clearly state the goal that you're trying to achieve or that you want the AI to achieve when it's finished working. So let's jump into an example here. This is an example prompt which I've broken down, and you can see that I've labeled each area of the prompt. Now, often people actually flip it around and they start with roles. So we can see as a customer service agent, so we're telling it the job or what job title it has straight away, so it kind of can rely on its knowledge base or do research as to how that person would do that role. Analyze this customer complaint. So the context, what is the problem here that we're trying to solve, or what is the information around the problem we're trying to solve? Extract feedback, which we've actually labeled as input here, but we could label that as information. So we're actually going to provide it with feedback. So that's the information we're putting down. And summarize your response in a clear, actionable format. So the structure of what we want to do, you could go deeper as well as that, like in a bullet pointed list. And then finally, the goal is to retain customer trust and resolve the issue efficiently. Purpose. So it knows who or what it is, the context behind it, the information we're actually going to add to it. So in this prompt, below this prompt, we would give it the customer complaint for it to work from, and then the structure and what it's aiming to achieve. You can see how that clearly breaks down in a very structured way how we want the AI to perform. Now, the other way we can prompt AI is more like a brain dump. And one of the great things about particularly ChatGPT, and most of them have this in this now, is this dictate mode. You can actually just hit this button and start talking and giving it all the information it needs. And while I might not follow the structured crisp method of prompting here, you need to still make sure you're giving it some information. So for example, let's say we wanted ChatGPT to help us do some research because we're buying a new phone. We could hit this dictate button and start telling it what we were looking for. I'm looking for a new mobile phone that has a really great camera. I want the best camera on the market in there. I don't want it to be an iPhone, but I still want it to be a good model that costs less than $700. I'm open to using a refurbished phone as well, if that helps bring the cost down. I also need it to have dual SIM capabilities because I use a SIM when I travel, although that could be an eSIM. Can you research good quality list for me and put them in a table of the pros and cons as to what I require out of my new phone? So you can see here, you can just dictate into ChatGPT or the other models and actually get it to go and run a prompt like that. So you could actually go on for a lot longer than this if you just have a stream of consciousness that you're trying to think of, trying to understand what you're trying to get to, put it into ChatGPT and help it organize your thoughts. You could actually, if you were doing a research task like this, you could actually turn on deep research mode and go much deeper and send it off to research the web for 20 minutes to actually narrow down. What's cool as well on different models, you'll notice how they work. It'll actually ask you more questions on ChatGPT, whereas some will actually go and find more information. So we could just use dictation mode to actually just answer these questions and go again. So rather than having to sit and type and be slow and just getting bored that you're going to have to answer all these questions, just dictate and just get on with giving it as much information as possible for it to go and do its job. As long as you're telling it what you're trying what you want it to do and what you're trying to achieve, then you're going to get pretty good results. Once you've spent time understanding which platform is going to suit the type of work you do best, and you've started getting comfortable with how you can prompt consistently to get great outputs, we can then move on to really start putting AI to work. This is a place where a lot of people get stuck because they sort of understand how to use it a bit and they use it for some fun things. But when it comes to their day-to-day work, they're still not really sure how they can actually integrate AI into their workflows. And that's where mapping your workflows comes in. This is a really important step because once you understand your processes and systems that you use in your business, you can then work out where you can integrate even basic AI stuff like ChatGPT, or we'll get onto some more complex automations in a minute. So, what does mapping your workflow means? Well, over the course of the week, you want to track everything you do because we want to find the most time consuming tasks that then we can delegate to AI. If you're not really keeping track of the different actions and processes you're doing through your day and your week, then it's hard to then work out how you're going to delegate them across. So, track all your time, make a note of how long everything takes, and then start to highlight maybe your top 3 most time consuming processes or frustrating or things you wish you rather didn't have to do while you instead of focusing on more high value tasks. Then once you've highlighted those, you want to simplify and document. Literally, you can even use a tool like Scribe where you can document your whole system. You can set this up running on your computer and it'll automatically take screenshots and document your every action in a workflow. And then you can have literally a list of steps you take from start to finish in a process, or you can just note this down manually, step by step, simply in a Word document with maybe an explanation or a screenshot of how you achieve that task. This is a really important step because it directly relates to how you can use AI and automate your processes. And once you understand your time and the step-by-step processes, you can more easily identify the AI opportunities. You can start to see the tasks that maybe you're spending a lot of time researching, finding information, putting it together into a presentation that took you maybe 5 hours in a day to create this client presentation, when actually AI could have been doing the deep research for you and actually pulling together the information into a draft of your presentation for you as a human to go and put the final touches on or the final tweaks. Or it could be analyzing your keyword research and putting it into a table ready for you to then tweak and finalize or add the improvements you want to from your industry expertise. Then you can start to research AI tools more efficiently. We've already taken a look and gotten used to what some of the basic LLMs do, but now armed with your AI opportunities and the step-by-step tasks you want to achieve, you can better start researching and pick the tools that are going to suit your workflow. And then it becomes much easier to pick the low-hanging the low hanging fruit, the stuff that you say, hey, I've got this job I need doing, here's some steps, and then you can match it to an AI tool as you do your research. And I'm going to show you some extra tools you can use in a second. And finally, I just want to say, don't expect perfection immediately. You will need to implement and test and tweak and improve as you go. The more you use these tools, the better you'll become, and you'll better understand the capabilities and where you need to step in as a human or where you can get your processes more automated or more efficient with certain AI tools, even if it's just research and writing and image generation or more complex tasks. Now you've got your processes, you can really take things to the top advanced level of the top 1% of AI users, and that's build automated workflows that do your jobs for you while you're asleep, and you just have to check in at the end. And there's several platforms that are great for beginners all the way up to super advanced stuff. For example, this is a really simple beginner-friendly one called MindPal. There's also a similar one called Gumloop, which are very automated, and you can almost build workflows just by chatting like you would do to ChatGPT. But you can see this one's very user-friendly laid out. You can see that actually this is a workflow that I made that takes you from my experience or my expertise, and actually goes through the process I would go through to create a lead magnet or a resource. So you can see it comes up with ideas, titles, does extra research, and it has different agents built into this that are actually going off and doing these different things before generating the content, refining and reviewing it, and sending it for approval. Now, the cool thing about MindPal is that you can actually do all of this really easily in sort of a vibe codey way. So we could actually ask it anything here and say, can you create a workflow to make a LinkedIn post from a YouTube link, for example? Instead of me having to transcribe and write, it's actually going to go and build this workflow for us step by step. You can see here, it's almost mapping out that workflow for us. We didn't even have to think about it. Get YouTube link and post preferences, extract the video summary, draft the post, review the post, and then send for approval, and then finalize everything before it's ready to go. And when you break down into this agent area, you can see it's actually created the form for me to put a URL in when we actually come to use it. It's built out each step by step with context and prompts for the AI to use, even built our AI agents in there automatically. So we literally just can go and use this workflow. I'll show you how they look on the front end. For example, my lead generation magnet, we can actually put my expertise in here, and it actually just goes and runs the process and spits out a lead magnet at the other end. This is a similar thing that Gumloop does. Now, if you want to take things up to the sort of middle level and have more control, because these platforms can be quite restricted in the way they operate with the outside world, you can move on to make.com, which is somewhere in between. It's quite user friendly, enjoyable to look at and use. You can link up custom webhooks, which are forms and actions outside of make.com, run data through your AI brain or your node in various steps. I mean, this is a very simplified example, and then output data for this one. The information would go to create an event in our Google Calendar. But you can see it's just a bit more user friendly and nice to look at than actually something which like NA10, which almost is limitless in its capabilities, kind of works in the same way. You can see here each node is a step in the workflow that you do, but you can connect these to almost anything and build almost anything in these. You probably see them floating around on LinkedIn and Twitter and stuff. You can see in this example, you submit a form, it goes into the AI agent, which has links to Claude Anthropic's model. It has some chat memory. It has some other software built in there, and then goes to update the relevant information in Slack. These are almost limitless, can go on and on and on. This is a pretty advanced level, so you might want to start on the bottom end with something like Gumloop or MindPal, work your way up to understanding these models and how they improve. It'll take you a little time to get to using NA10 to any serious level. And that's really it. Over the course of weeks, if you do these 5 things, you start with playing around and understanding the different AI models that are out there and the functionality that are in there. And in the process, improve your prompting processes, mapping out your workflows, and then working out how you can integrate either just the normal AI platforms and their functions or building out automated workflows. You're going to be more proficient at using AI than 99% of people out there in a matter of weeks.